This is Steve Johnson, Farm and Ag Business Management Specialist with Iowa State University Extension and Outreach. Welcome to the fourth in a series of videos, this one titled Calculating ARC PLC Payments. We want to build on that same farm that we discussed in earlier videos where we'd plugged in the base acres into the existing base reallocation tool. This is an Excel spreadsheet that's available on the FSA website. Several states will have their own tool. Again, just a reminder as far as what we were looking at, we had a 70-acre corn base, 20-acre oat base, 70-acre bean base, and a total of 160 base acres. Remember, we can't increase the base acres on the farm. We can only determine whether to retain these base acres or plug in the number of acres that were planted of corn and soybeans in this example of 2009 through 2012. The calculator automatically calculates what would be that reallocation base. In this case, I would prefer to have 80 base acres of corn than 70 base acres of corn and 80 base acres of beans rather than the 70. I would suggest that if this was my farm, I would reallocate. Note that we can't create new base acres. We can either retain the old base or reallocate. Reallocate the base acres. The rule of thumb is corn tends to pay more often and larger payments than that of soybeans. Then move on to yield. Remember, you can update your yield on your farm. We're using 5 years for yields. So if you have production evidence, you report that as bushels per acre for the years that you planted the program crop. Notice that we planted corn on this farm all 5 years, 2008 through 2012. In one of those years, we had a low yield, 2012. We'll be able to use a substitute yield for that year. We'll simply add all those years' yields together to total 773 and divide by the number of years, 5. So the yield would be 155 times 90%. The determination that I still need to make is, which should I do? Should I keep that old CC countercyclical yield of 142, or should I update to a new yield of 139? I'd suggest to pick the higher of the two. This will become your new payment yield on your farm. So I've reallocated base acres, 80 base acres of corn, but I am retaining that CC yield that becomes the new payment yield on the farm. Now, let's compare PLC to county ARC. PLC is price, loss, coverage. It only triggers when we have some sort of a price loss below a reference price of $3.70 a bushel. We don't know what the marketing year average price will be for the 2014-15 marketing year, but let's estimate that it's the midpoint of the October 10th WASDE, or World Agriculture Supply and Demand Estimate number. That was $3.40 a bushel. Based on the information in front of me, the difference between 370 and 340 is 30 cents. I'd simply multiply the 80 base acres of corn on the farm times 85%, times that 30-cent difference, times the 142 bushel payment yield, and I'd come up with a total PLC payment of $2,897, or roughly about $35 an acre. Again, I don't know if there will be a PLC payment because I don't know what the marketing year average price will be for 2014 and 2015. And if there is a payment, I will not receive the 2014 payment until October of 2015, and only if I elect and enroll in the PLC program. The other program that I think will be very popular will be this county ARC, or ARC-CO program. Remember, ARC is a revenue-based program that only needs to be triggered by revenue yield times price. It uses an Olympic average yield and an Olympic average price For 2014, we'll use the most recent 5 years. We'll use 2009 through 2013. We'll throw out the high yield and the low price from 2009. We'll throw out the low yield and the high price from 2012, and we'll simply multiply 2010, 11, and 13. We'll come up with 166 as far as the county yield, county-based product, ARC-CO, and we'll use the Olympic average price. This is known for every county in the U.S. that produces corn. So these numbers can be calculated now to start to begin the process of creating a comparison of PLC versus ARC-CO. Let's use a 6-step approach. The first 3 steps is, number 1, calculate the benchmark. We'll simply multiply the 166 times the 529 to come up with the benchmark revenue. We'll still need to multiply the benchmark revenue times 86%. That's a regulation within this farm program to come up with the revenue guarantee. We'll need to know what the county yield is, and in this example I'll estimate, but it will be every bit of spring or summer of 2015 before we'll know our final county yield. It'll be called the FSA yield. Let's use 180 bushel per acre, and let's multiply that times that $3.40, again, that midpoint from the WASDE. We won't know the final marketing year average price until September of 2015. But if my assumptions are correct, you notice that there's going to be a revenue loss. That revenue loss is going to be around $143.20 per acre. But because the ARC program, both the ARC-CO and the ARC-IC have a maximum payment, the payment can never be more than 10% of the benchmark revenue. Therefore, the $87.81 reflects that 10% of that revenue. Every county will be different, but the shortfall will still reflect a potential payment, a maximum payment that's available for that county. Simply multiply your base acres times 85% times that payment of $87.81. The total payment that could be available for this farm, elect and enrolled in the ARC-CO, would be $5,971. Again, the payment would not be made until October of 2015. This is but 1 year of calculations. You're going to have to make multiple years. This is a 5-year farm program. Every year we'll have to update that county Olympic average yield and the Olympic average price. So I want to encourage you to consider using the calculators that will be out there to make multiple year decisions, not just a 1-year decision. I hope you found this video to be helpful. Again, if you have questions, direct those questions at the FSA county office. I want to wish you good luck as you make decisions for your farm or farms, and please note at the bottom of the screen some website references that you can use.